Welcome to the sixth and final video. I want to round things off and bring some key things in together for you. What we covered in the previous session was how to survive due diligence, or DD in friendly terms, and how to keep in control and keep everyone at the table. This session, we're going to finish where we started, actually, which is get the deal over the line and life after sale. So sadly, I did mention the statistics for converting from businesses taken to market to selling. On average, it's about 1 in 5 in this country. Only 1 in 5 sell. All sorts of reasons. That'll be on another video. Good advisors have a much higher conversion rate, 70, 80%. So pick the right advisor because you want to sell first time. It's all about getting the deal over the line in the way that you intended, so you can fulfill your objectives, so you can finish one chapter and start a new one in your life. So 3 top tips to get that elusive deal over the line, the winning line. I might have said it before. Get the right advisors, the lawyers particularly. Bad lawyers can kill a deal. Good lawyers can make it happen for you, particularly at the back end of the process. And if you don't know a good corporate lawyer, come to me and I'll put you in touch with 1 or 2. And I have said it in the previous session, you've got to remind people, they lose track. They lose track of time. And you've got to remind people there's a completion date, and you should have it in the heads of terms document, as I mentioned in the other session. You've got to keep people to that. It will drift, as sure as eggs is eggs. It will, because people are busy, and particularly with lawyers and accountants who are part of this team to get a deal over the line, they've got other clients, they've got other deals. You need to keep at the top of the priority list. To you, it's everything, because it's 10 million quid or 22 million pounds. To them, it's another piece of work. And also keep the buyer accountable for things dragging. It's in their financial interests to complete on time, because the longer it goes on for, A, they might lose you from the table as the seller. Also, they're going to incur additional legal and financial costs if it doesn't complete as planned. So you're kind of in the same ballpark as the buyer. So between you, why don't they keep their advisors in check and accountable for completion, and why don't you keep yours that you're paying good money to keep things on track, so you don't go off and things extend and deal fatigue sets in. Yeah, I did allude to it earlier in a previous session. You'll find if you've been on any negotiation skills training, which I have years ago, where you do various exercises in group format, people will talk to the nth degree and get bogged down, and there's no deal until they realise they've only got 5 minutes to go in the exercise, and now they've got to get a conclusion. So they'll spend an hour chatting and navel gazing, and then 5 minutes to get a deal together. It's something in us, in human nature, that is a very dangerous time to concede. So don't concede. Trade. Be prepared to trade at the 11th hour, but be very aware of buyers' tactics to leave things until the 11th hour or spring a surprise on you. Oh, didn't you realise? Etc., etc. Yes, they're doing it on purpose because they know that you're more likely to concede just before the finishing line, because you want to get it over the line, and things that you would never have conceded on earlier in the process, you're now prepared. Don't do it. Be really aware of it. If you are going to give things up, make sure it's a trade for things that you really want. And I'll give you another one in there. I would ignore the natural tendency for you as the seller to want to change their mind. You set off on course with the right motives and the right, you wanted to do things for a particular reason or reasons. You will get remorse. It will come in. It's come in with me. Ignore it. You set off on that track for good reason. It's a little voice in the background. And if it's just you and the fear of the future, that's your problem. It's not the buyer. The buyer's not changed anything in the deal. It's just an internal battle that you might have. Ignore it. So I've given you 4 tips where there's 3. This was my first transaction. I learned my apprenticeship in mergers and acquisitions working for what became a large M&A brokerage business. I took it from 1.5 million to 15 million turnover in 7 years as the GM. But when I started myself with my own M&A firm, I was a one-man band. This was the first transaction. I was just so amazed. I know I'd been selling businesses for 7 years, but I'd been doing it under someone else's banner. This was me. This was Rob Goddard. And you always remember your first sale. And this is Tony Record, and a lovely man, and him and his wife. He was the first person. I'd been running Evolution for 2 months, and he was my first client. And I thought, fantastic, Evolution's only 2 months old. He was my first client who said yes, and I thought, why on earth is he trusting me to sell his business? I'm only 2 months old in this new business, fledgling startup business. But they did. And one thing I learnt from Tony in selling his business, it took about 9 months. He had life after sale in mind throughout, because he told me about it. That car that you can see is a 1936 Morris convertible. And he'd inherited it from his dad, who started the business originally. And when his dad passed away, the family car that Tony remembered as a boy going on family holidays in, was bequeathed to him. And Tony's wish was that he wanted to restore the car back to its former glory. But guess what? In 30, 40 years of running a business, he never had the time. But now he saw, one of the things he saw as the advantage of selling his business was that he'd have the time back to restore the family car. And so after the sale of the business, I went up to Chesterfield to go to Tony's home. And the first thing he took me round to as I arrived was his garage and showed me the car that was in progress. It doesn't look restored, does it? But it's very authentic. And for me, that just cemented why I do what I do. And I've been doing for the last 20 years, which is helping people move from where they are to where they want to be, and fulfilling some of the things in their life that they've never had time to do because they've ended up growing a business and they found themselves in a self-made prison. And for the larger companies, maybe it's a golden prison because they're taking 200 or 300k out in dividends every year, but it's still a prison. They're still shackled to the business. They can't get free of it. And so for me, I can remember all of the transactions I've been involved in, but this one's very special to me because it's the first one under my own name, and it's the first one that I completed on. So what about my life after sale? We've ended up where we first started from the video series. These are some of the things I've been getting involved in. How many of my children can I fit on a motorcycle? Can I dive 50 meters below the sea depths? Just a fantastic experience, scuba diving. Serving drinks on Emirates, on the top deck to other Emirates passengers. Do you know what? Life is about having fun. It isn't all about growing a business and running a business and spending 90 hours a week at work. It's part of the story, but it's not the full thing. And it's having time to do those fun things. That is just a soupçon, because I've got more stuff that I've been doing. Yes, definitely, and I'm not giving tax advice, but I have been told that automotives, buying cars and selling cars at a profit, there's no capital gains tax. Again, I'm not giving advice. You have to do your own research, but perhaps someone could contact me on LinkedIn. Is that true? Regardless of the tax position, I'm going to have a collection of classic cars, and I've started with an Aston Martin. But there'll be others to come. But it isn't just about cars, it's about fish. Because not only do I want to scuba dive, and I have scuba dived with fish, I actually want to have them in my back garden. There's nothing better to start the day before everyone else gets up, to have a cup of coffee, go to my raised koi pond, and feed the fish and just contemplate life, the universe and everything before everyone's woken up. It's a beautiful thing, and it's my way of recharging before the day has started. But I also, There's no point in me going to a gym and being let loose on equipment because I just wouldn't push myself. I've had to use Charlotte to push me because I need a personal trainer. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lost the weight I have, and I wouldn't have been kept to the regime, the health regime that I need to live a longer life than ordinarily I was heading for. Definitely eating better food, fresh. That's in Albania, fish everywhere. And of course, if you have a great meal, you've got to have a wonderful cognac and coffee to follow it as well, with the palm trees and the sunset in the distance. But it isn't all about being on land, it's being out on that boat. Also, why have one inflatable canoe when you can have half a dozen and a couple of paddle boards and a boat to charter out? Yes, I'm still running a little hire business in Albania through a rental company that's there in our town. So you can't keep a good businessman down. You're still finding opportunities, even though you don't need to. I don't need to, but I want to. I want to do these things. Definitely do want walks, and have had walks along the seafront. That's when the sun is going down. Being up in the mountains, because Albania is a country of contrast. It's beautiful up in the mountains. That's not in the mountains, that is in Basingstoke in Hampshire. That's my two youngest children. I have 6 kids, and they like nothing better than when it's snowing, which is not a very common occurrence in the UK, being towed behind their dad on a BMW 650 around the car park. That's in sunnier climes with the same girls. That is my other half, who's not shadowed on a sand dune. That's Christina, who's also my PA now. She runs not only my life at home, but she runs my diary for business appointments. And that's one of the fish. They are whoppers, some of them. They're 36 inches. I didn't know fish got that big, but they do. I've had opportunity as well. Now I've had some time back to write books. I'm the author of 6 books. Some I've co-authored and some I've written myself. But they're all very personal journeys. And last year, I actually proposed to my fiancée, and we're getting married next year in Albania. All the things, and there's more to come. And that's just in a short period of time, relatively. Arguably, most of those things I wouldn't have been able to achieve if I was still running a business. So what's stopping you? What's stopping you from finishing one chapter in your life successfully and starting a new one? What's holding you back? And I'm not saying that you should go out and sell your business tomorrow. I'm definitely not saying that. What I'm saying is that you should start to take the first steps of an exit strategy, which might be a year, might be 3 years, might be 5 years, might be 10 years. It might be that you don't sell at all. But if you apply many of the principles in this video series, you'll have a more saleable business. Not that you're looking to sell. So if you did get contact from a dream buyer offering you a dream price, you're good to go. Your business is sale ready. You're ready to get a premium price for your business. So, what were the learnings from that session? Record them. In that all too familiar sheet, you'll be completed. It'll be like a bingo card for those of you that can remember those. What were your learnings? What are you going to implement, and when? And how are you going to keep yourself accountable? So what's the next step? This is the end of session 6. Well, next step is that you are entitled to a one-to-one conversation with me. It's a 2-hour consultancy session. Initially, I want to find out what your experience of the video series was. It's always great to get feedback from people. Very helpful for future series that I'm going to be doing. Also, I want to find out from you, what are you going to do next? How are you going to take those first few steps in that exit strategy? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And what are the timelines? Also, the other reason for having a conversation with you is to answer any questions that you have, because I'm very mindful that you've had 6 videos from me and you've not had the opportunity to pose any questions. Well, I'm going to put that right in the bonus session at the one-to-one consultancy, because you can ask me anything you like and I will give you a very honest response. If you want to be put in touch with certain professional advisors that I know from experience will do a very decent job for you, whether it's legal, accountancy or selling your business, then I'll happily do that. The ball's in your court. So I look forward to having a conversation with you soon. We'll get in touch. Bye-bye for now.